What do you imagine when you think about power? That's the question that a young Black queer Brooklyn based artist and photographer is answering. Eric Hart Jr.'s black and white photo series, When I Think About Power, presents more than 70 portraits that focus on the notion of just that. What makes this display unique is that it focuses on the Black queer experiences. His work has been published in Rolling Stone, The Washington Post, and The New York Times, and he has been praised by Beyonce and Spike Lee. Eric Hart Jr., thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, yes. Well, we're excited to have you. I want to begin by asking you what kind of sparked your fascination with really investigating the intersections of being Black and queer?
I think that spark came for me just out of the necessity to understand myself and the necessity to exist as black and queer and being proud of that, you know? I feel like growing up, I kind of was always taught otherwise, that these are things you should, hide or condemn or, so for me, I think the spark in that curiosity and that interest came from literally just needing to understand myself. And I think it came in a medium of photography because I just love to create. And that's what kind of captured me.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you. And during Black History Month, we have taken the time to spotlight those who've come before, who are incredible artists and musicians and politicians. And would you talk a little bit about who may have been your inspirations or possibility models?
Of course, I'm inspired by so many other creatives, so many black queer creatives who came before me. Specifically within this book, this the work is sectioned off into different chapters that kind of lean into different areas surrounding power. So some of those chapters are led by James Baldwin, some of those chapters are led by Marlon Riggs, Alvin Ailey. So I'm like really inspired by those people who were voices in times when it was even more difficult than it is today to be open and honest about who you are.
Yes, wonderful. I love hearing Marlon Riggs as a film buff. I love hearing you bring Marlon Riggs up. Um, so you grew up in Macon, Georgia, and tell us about kind of coming to self acceptance in Georgia. And was it? Did you find pockets of welcoming for a Black queer man?
So growing up in Georgia was definitely an experience because I feel like I was surrounded by, I grew up with my grandmother, so we were deep into church. We were in church every Sunday, every Wednesday. So it was very much stereotypical Bible Belt ideologies. And it's also a smaller town. I'm in Macon, Georgia, so this isn't like Atlanta or something like that. So for me, it was difficult to kind of find myself in my community and look out and see people who were like myself because it really wasn't that out and open because there still were a lot of small town ideas. I love where I come from and I love my community. I'm so proud of being a Southern man, a Southern person, but I do feel like I had to get out of Georgia and out of Macon specifically to really explore myself and find my community, find my tribe. But yeah, I don't regret anything. I do feel like it was a great upbringing, but I do feel like it's been a slower process to get to the place where a, a place where there is that acceptance and is that embrace.
Yeah, thank you for that. And then I wonder if you could just go a little further and kind of touch on some of the differences or common threads that you found with other men in your community in Macon, growing up in a small town.
That's an interesting question. I think the common threads were the need to be confident, the need to be yourself, be open, be honest, but I feel like it just took a different form in the men that I saw. So when I looked at my father or my grandfather, they were very powerful men and they are still very powerful men. They are leaders, providers, confident in themselves. And I feel like now I do resonate with that. And I think that has been my saving grace as just a queer human in this world. However, I didn't see that connect when I was a kid. I felt completely disconnected. But I feel like now I can see those common threads.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Thank you. And how did that kind of background feed into or translate into your photo work?
I definitely feel like my photo work was the exploration of finding that quote unquote common thread, that power, that beauty, that confidence. I think my photo work, as previously mentioned, it was an exploration and is an exploration of myself. And I think that once I lean into using my camera as a tool to understand, to question, to reframe, I feel like that's when I found that energy that I saw in those common threads. So I think that a lot with this work, it shows that common thread that you're mentioning, and that almost thing that I was searching for. I feel that come through in the work that I'm creating now. Yeah.
Mhm. Wonderful. Well, we know that you're, expressing yourself through your photography, obviously, but will you talk about some of the larger themes that your photo series takes, viewers through?
For sure, definitely. So I touch on topics such as conflict. Touch on topics such as religion, heritage, and even joy. I feel like I grew up, as mentioned previously, very religious, and you internalize some of those teachings. I look like I previously mentioned my father, looking at the men around me, feeling that difference, and being internalizing that you're not these men. Like I'm a junior myself, so that's also a point of entry within the book that's very heavy and dear to me, this idea of being a junior.
Mm,
um it's so many different topics. It's all topics that relate to the notion of power. So when I started out the book, I literally just listed all the ways I think of power, who I think exudes power, and kind of reframe these things. So even some topics of accessories and dress, like even like this image in front of you all, this
yeah.
like the nails, that's a running motif within the image. So I really play with power in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, and I wonder, would you talk a little bit about the idea of power? And I know you've spoken about confidence before, and this is really something that, marginalized communities are not often depicted in power or confidence. They're always otherized or, made less than, or, so I think it's really incredible that you're doing this work. And would you kind of talk about that?
Of course, and thank you for that. I feel like oftentimes, as you're mentioning, marginalized communities don't get to see themselves in roles of power. I feel like sometimes powerful images can feel far away. They can feel distant. They can feel like that's not really a reflection of myself. For me, I wanted to blend this idea of conflict and this idea of the process of understanding power and finding your power with beauty and with strength and with confidence. So I think a lot of these images, when you look at them, you'll see a juxtaposition of comfort and conflict. You'll see a juxtaposition of beauty and pain, because I feel like understanding that process to getting towards power, to understanding yourself, that's what a lot of marginalized communities, I feel like, need. I feel like I wish there was someone telling me, you don't have to look like or be like or exemplify yourself in any other way. Like, you are beautiful in this very state. Even in your conflict, even in your understanding, you are still beautiful. And I feel like that's kind of what I was getting at with these images.
Yeah, great. And I wonder if you would tell us a little bit about the exhibit and where viewers can see this.
Yes, so there are a few different events happening in New York that will have the work on display. One being at Noy House, Madison Square location, that will be on May 19th. And I'll be there signing books, having a conversation. And yeah, the work will be on display there. And I really hope New York comes out to check it out.
Amazing. And then, well, you don't just have that, you have a book coming out soon. So what can you tell us about that?
Yes, yes. So the book will be out in May. I believe the release date is May 2nd. I just got some advanced copies and it's really beautiful. It's gorgeous work. I'm really proud of it. It'll be available at Barnes and Noble, at Target. It's on my website now. I'll announce tomorrow. But yeah, I feel like if anyone is interested in that realm of power, if anyone's interested in black and white photography, and even just having an engaging conversation about what it means to be powerful. Even people outside of the queer community, I feel like this work is universal in a sense of dissecting power. So hope everyone checks it out.
Amazing. I'll be looking forward to it. The photo series is called When I Think About Power. The artist is Eric Hart Jr. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure.
February is Black History Month, and today we are honoring Mondaire Jones. In 2020, voters in New York's 17th District elected Jones to the House of Representatives. That made him one of the first two out Black LGBTQ+ members of Congress. Before joining Congress, Jones worked at the Justice Department under the Obama administration. He was a rising star in the progressive wing of the Democratic caucus, but lost his reelection bid in 2022. He's currently working on the Civil Rights Commission. That's all the time we have for this Advocate today. The Advocate channel is streaming online at advocatechannel.com. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel or download our Roku app. I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist. I'll see you next time.